You're listening to Relationships and Chill, the podcast for singles and couples about how to find and cultivate the relationship you've always dreamed of, based on trust and honest communication. Why waste your time going through the typical dating obstacle course, only to end up with drama, jealousy, and heartbreak, when you can find the love of your life and live happily ever after? So sit back, chill, and get ready to make relationships great again.
Greetings, everyone. Greetings. Welcome to another edition of the Relationships and Chill podcast. I am your gracious host, Coach R. Anthony, and this is the Relationships and Chill podcast, the ultimate podcast for relationships and dating. Listen, guys, we have a very special guest today, and I wanted to give her a very warm welcome, considering the fact this is her first real podcast, you know what I'm saying? So I know it's going to be great. I'm going to be gentle with her, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to be very gentle. No, but our next guest, she's a highly sought after, internationally acknowledged expert practitioner within the field of holistic healing. She has 15 years of practical experience gained in India, y'all, South Africa, the Middle East, Germany, North America, that's Canada and the U.S. She holds qualifications in Integrative Reprogramming Technique. She's a facilitator of that, yoga instructor, nutritionist, an instructor of advanced breathing techniques for self-healing, and holds a degree in psychology from the University of British Columbia. Y'all, I want y'all to give a very warm welcome to Deborah Small. Y'all, welcome Deborah Small to the Relationships and Chill podcast.
Thank you, Anthony. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks for coming. I really appreciated you for coming. My wife put me on to you. You guys have a history together. You guys went to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got here. We'll talk about my wife and how y'all met.
Yes. So Ilul and I went to the same teacher training about 10 years ago. Uh-huh. And so that's where we met the first time, and we kind of stayed connected over the years and have watched each other grow and got to the things that that kind of mean something to us, more than just what we like to do.
Right.
And so it's been wonderful to watch her, and I'm sure she's enjoyed to watch me, and living our best life, really, and she encourages people to live their best life in what she does, and so do I. And so we've got similar paths, which is really good.
Exactly. And that's amazing. Y'all, listen, I was telling her before, the accent for me makes it official. I like to watch some documentaries where the people is like talking about like what the birds are doing and the caterpillars and all that stuff, and just the accent alone makes it more interesting. She don't believe she has.
I'm happy to oblige you with my South African accent.
So you are from South Africa?
That's correct. I was born and raised in the city of Cape Town.
Okay.
And
So
and I've moved around a little bit, but I lived there for the first good almost 30 years of my life.
Okay. Now I was listening to a program, audio that you did on SoundCloud, and how you had a interesting experience.
Correct.
With Dr. Wayne Dyer.
That's right.
What would you say prior to that led you to getting there? We'll get to that point, but
to that point,
what would you say contributed?
Well, it was like, it's funny. Some people believe in it and some people don't. That things line up, and that's okay if you believe or if you don't. It doesn't really matter. Mm-hmm. But to me, I just a little time before that, a few months before I met Dr. Wayne Dyer, I felt like I was a little bit drowning in my life, I was young in my 20s, and I just felt like I was completely drowning in my life and I needed to change something. And I started to try meditation and, yoga as well. And basically looking out for something better. Because what I was doing wasn't really working for me, right? And so when I saw a poster for Dr. Wayne Dyer was coming to visit in my city, and actually it was at a bookstore, and I bought his book called Your Erroneous Zone. That was his first book that he published. So I started reading the book, and I just thought, well, it's going to be amazing. I'm going to meet the author, right? And so that's basically how it started. So I ended up going to his talk, which was brilliant. It was very simple. And he really inspired me to continue to just be on this path of meditation and yoga. And so 20 years later, I mean, it's like it has completely transformed my life. And not just that, I have also helped for others to transform their life to be better. And, and so, I think that there's a series of events that happen in your life that puts you on the path that you want to be.
Absolutely.
Well, so that was my little thing with Dr. Wayne Dyer.
So what was happening at that time to cause you to say, you know what, I'm drowning. I need something else. And I guess, when was that, and what was that experience? I guess I want to say, what was that experience like, in the sense that we have these moments where we're okay, like there's nothing wrong, and then eventually over time it's like something needs to change.
Yes,
you know what I mean.
Yes.
So we go from like, okay, like I'm good, everything is all right, but the transition into the tribulation, I guess, and then that causes us to look for something else. What would you say? What would you say that was, and what attributed to your desire?
So, I mean, obviously now, after all these many years later, and having created a lot of healing for myself, what I think was really going on. So when I was in my 20s, I felt like I was drowning. And it's funny that when you introduced me, and, coming from a country at that time, when I was born, it was a racist country. And so white people lived in some areas and black people lived in some areas. And I'm from the colored community. And so we kind of in the middle. And colored people have an area. And whether it's true or not, but it would seem like the regime that was set up was to keep people in their places. And so coming from a colored community where you had minimum wage, you'd never get anywhere in your life. You're basically just working and paying for the bills. And most of the people in the colored communities can't even afford an education. Right. And so I think in my life at that time, I felt like I was just going through these motions and I was never going to get anywhere. And of course, that was not true, but that's how I felt. And so the thinking and the conditioning that I lived in was what created really my misery.
Right.
And I was very lucky. And like I said, we can call it luck, or we can say the stars lined up for me to be to do certain things.
But it happened. It just happened.
It happened, yes. And because I was seeking out meditation and yoga and so on, and I was led to go to another talk with a guy. He was already retired. He came with his wife, and they were traveling around from the US. They were, and he was a kinesiologist. And I went to his talk, and it's a very enlightening talk. And after the talk, I don't remember so much what he said during the talk, but our conversation really stuck with me. And because I said, like, I'm really overwhelmed with my life. And he looked me straight in the face and said, well, if you're not happy with your life, you can change it. And I looked at him, I was like, you have to be crazy. Like, are you for real? I'm living in a racist country. I'm not getting the right relationships. I don't have enough money. I'm a single mother, and all the issues that had kept me from feeling that I was stuck and I was drowning was what I created.
Right. Well, it was created, but you believed it. You took it in.
Exactly. Yeah. And what he said made me, first of all, I thought it was craziness. Like because I never knew up until that point, really, this is the truth. I never knew up until that point that I would play a role in changing my life.
Right. Exactly.
I was so convinced that the external people and places and things, well, that's how it is. And that's
dictated your life. Right.
Exactly. And of course, that was not true. And that would be the beginning for me of and that's why in my book, you'll see there, the book is called The Self-Repair Toolkit, A Journey Towards Self-Empowerment. Yes.
I have it.
And because my whole life is dedicated to helping people to understand that you have power to change your life.
Right.
Because I didn't know that information. And because I didn't know that information, my life was not as good as it could be, as it is now. And so with having that information, and, there are a few points that come with having that information. The number one thing is taking responsibility for everything in your life. And so I added to my situation, what can I do to change? But still living in my life, still showing up for all the things that I have to do. What can I do to make my life better? And that's really what happened, and from that time up until now, every day still, that's been a good 20 years. Every day still, I look at what can I do better? How can I take responsibility for this situation? And it ties in so very beautifully with what the message that you want to bring across about relationships, because our entire life is about relationships, whether that be romantic, whether that be with siblings, with parents, with colleagues, with friends. Everything is related to us through the relationship. Yes.
And we relay what we believe and what we know through the relationship. We filter our beliefs through the relationship, which affects the relationship.
And also through our conditioning. And it's really tough for people to understand that how they think and what they value is what they made up because of the conditioning, because of the society.
What do you mean? Like they're making it up?
They are making it. Well, the society is, let's say, for example, you're living in the Middle East. So you're born into this family and you are raised that you can have 3 or 5 wives. Okay. So now when you are born and raised in another country where you're only going to have 1 wife, you think, oh my God, that's really not good, or that's different. So your society or environment is going to have an effect on your belief system.
Exactly. Which is what I was saying. Like it filters through us into our relationships.
Correct.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Wow. So we're making a lot of progress already. As you can see.
Yeah.
As y'all can see, we're making a lot of progress because, I always say that in order to attract the best, you have to become the best. Meaning you have to get out of your own way and begin to question. Like you were saying, you have to begin to look at things. And even if just the fact of like just noticing that this is how it is. Okay, so at least I know the setup. Okay, the setup is this. These people over here, these people over here, these people over here. But why can't I do this? And then you start asking yourself, like, why?
The biggest problem, Anthony, is that we don't understand how to be the observer of our thoughts, our feelings, and our emotions. Really, that's
we're
the
getting
problem.
into something.
So
hold on, Deborah, hold on. We're getting somewhere, okay? We're getting somewhere.
Yeah, this is my everyday life.
I know. You just want to spill it all. You want to spill the beans.
This is my everyday life.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
but I'm working towards
really
that.
The biggest problem.
Because I have a question for you. I watched one of your videos, right? And I'm very interested, very intrigued. About how you said we are not our body, emotions, feelings, or thoughts. We are not any of these
we are
things.
not those. We are the ones observing them, experiencing them, but we are not. That's not who we are.
So hold on now. Hold on there.
Okay.
I'm with you. I'm completely with you. So what we are and what we should. Well, I ain't gonna say should. I'm gonna let you answer this question. Okay. What we are is observers of XYZ, right?
Correct.
Okay,
yes.
We're observers. Okay, so what is an observer?
So we're coming to the beefy part of it. So basically, if you have a thought, your thought is saying, I don't like that person because they're wearing pink.
Okay.
Or your thought is saying, I have to get there before they get close because if I don't, I'm going to be in trouble.
Okay.
Or I have to go and buy that because I really need to buy that. So you're thinking 24/7. That's what your mind does. It creates thoughts. It's the job of the mind. It's never going to stop. That's just what it does. What happens to us is that when the mind comes up with this thought, I don't like that girl, she's wearing pink. You can observe the thought and say, well, it's okay. This thought is coming. And obviously the thinking process really comes a lot from our past experiences. Maybe in the past, somebody who had a pink dress took your boyfriend from you when you were 16.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
It's possible.
Right.
So the thinking process is very much related to our past experiences. So your thinking is trying to protect you constantly, making up ways for you not to feel the discomfort or to feel the fear or so on and so on. But the thinking really doesn't have what I would say, an intelligence. Okay, you are the intelligence that's watching the thinking.
So
but
you process.
We don't know that.
So you're processing the. So
Correct.
you're the processor. Okay.
You're the processor. You're the one that's observing what the thoughts are doing, what the feelings are doing, what the emotions are doing. And most of the time, these things are interrelated. You have a thought that said, 10 years ago, you broke my heart. When I bump into you in the street after 10 years, I'm still going to hate you. So the feelings of how you hurt me is going to come up in that moment. So they're all related. But here's the thing, in 10 years, somebody could have changed. In 10 years, somebody could be completely different and have already moved on and thought, I'm sorry that I did that to you, whatever. But you are still in the same place.
Because you determined,
with that same feeling.
You determined not to change.
Correct. Exactly. So when you understand that I am not my thoughts, however, I am the observer of my thoughts, and I have a choice to not act and react on that thought, because the thoughts are going to come, because you're feeding them. If your thinking system, buys into there's gonna be a reaction when I give it this thought or that feeling, and you keep buying into it, your thinking thinks that's what you want. So it keeps giving you the same information, right? But like I said, the thinking process really has no intelligence. The real intelligence is you.
So how do we?
Your awareness.
Okay. I'm gonna let you finish, because I want to ask you about another layer. Now, that's intelligence, that's thoughts. Now, how do the feelings play a part in this?
It's the same thing. Your feeling. You see, humans, we exist on a few levels. Like, we have a body, you have breath, you have emotions, you have feelings, you have thoughts, and so on, right? So these are all levels of existence within this physical body. But there is an intelligence that gives rise to all of this. And we could almost say that at birth, this intelligence enters, and at death, as we know it, this intelligence leaves. We could say it like that.
Okay.
I'm not saying that it is like that, but let's look at it from a perspective of how the intelligence is working. The intelligence, let's say you have a rose tree, and you're just going to plant some seeds. We don't know the possibility of the rose tree until you plant the seed, water it, and nourish it, and then you get the flower, right? Or the tree. So that there is an intelligence that makes that happen. When you cut your finger and some blood comes out, and after a few maybe hours and maybe a day or so, it heals. Immediately when the cut comes, your body, the intelligence in your body is sending help. Like, many things are happening in your body.
So can we call that life force? Like the life
force?
So
you can call that intelligence, life force, God consciousness, whatever people want to call it. It doesn't matter.
Gotcha.
But there is a force that is making all this happen.
I'm just trying to throw out different ideas so that people
can grasp it. Exactly. And it's the same intelligence. Like, think about it, right? When you're sitting here right now, your heart is beating, right? Are you really doing anything to make your heart beat? No.
Yeah, I'm breathing. I can stop breathing. I got you.
But I'm saying, like, the heart is doing its thing. The lungs are doing their thing. The digestion is
exactly.
doing
I know what you mean. I'm just messing.
So all this stuff is happening, right? So what is making that happen? This intelligence.
Right. I guess.
Right. The fact that we are hanging in the universe, it's an intelligence that's
causing us to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's say there's this intelligence that runs through the body, that enters at when life comes together, and that leaves when we go. So this intelligence is the one that can be observing your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, and so forth. And then you will understand, so I'm not my thought. No, you're not your thought. Oh, I am not that emotion. No, you are not the emotion. You are the human that's experiencing the emotion. And it's completely okay for us as humans to experience all of them. Negative, positive, ups, downs, they are all okay. Our problem lies in the extremes. Like, when we have an extreme down, we go completely down. We want to, everything is bad. You want to do bad things to other people when you're there. And, and when we have that extreme high, I need to run after it. I want that fix.
Right.
All addicts, different types of addicts.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I think the thing is, like, I get what you're saying, because, for instance, like, you can't project how you'll feel in 20 years, right? You just have to go through your process, but what you cling on to will determine how you feel in 20 years. You see what I'm saying?
Correct. You're creating your own reality.
You're creating it because you're clinging on to something that may not be true a year from now, 2 weeks from now. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
I like the idea of being an observer, because I always tell people, don't trust your feelings. Don't trust your thoughts. Don't trust any of it. Observe it, because it is telling you a story. And if you can learn to interpret it, it's kind of like reading another language. And when you start interpreting it correctly, like, why do I feel this way? Like, where did this come from? Because most of our behaviors and thoughts are learned from something or someone, whether it's functional or dysfunctional, whether it serves us or whether it doesn't serve us. But regardless, it's going to serve us one way or another, whether it helps to contain our anger or to express and to express how we actually genuinely feel, or we may just bottle it up and never express it in that direct way, but in an indirect way, we will express it, because if it comes in, it has to go out. It has to go out somewhere. The same way we eat food and drink, it has to go somewhere. It's not just going to stay in you, but we do have a shadow side where we don't see the things that we don't do. The things that we do, we don't see it. We don't process it the same way we process information that's coming in.
Yes, because the way that the ego structure works, we all have an ego structure. We need it. Mm-hmm. I mean, otherwise I wouldn't brush my hair this morning for you.
For me, you did this for me.
Exactly. And so basically the ego doesn't want you to see. So it is always projecting it to the other. Mm-hmm. And so you said some really good things, talking about, obviously asking the question about, so you're not your thoughts, you're not your emotions. And now here's the question that people would probably want to know. The answer to is like, how do I become the observer of these things? Because that's actually the problem. The problem is people don't know how to become the observer of feelings, thoughts, emotions, and so on. Okay. So here's the key, people. I'm going to give it to you.
Talk to me. Talk to me.
It's very simple. It's very simple. I say this every day. I give this information out for free every day. Mm-hmm. Meditation.
Okay.
If you do anything in your life, start a meditation daily. If you can only do 12 minutes a day, please start with that. I recommend 12 to 20 minutes twice a day. But if you can only do it once a day, please do it. Because meditation helps you to step away from the thinking process. It helps you to observe, to become the better observer of thinking, feelings, emotions, and so on. And like you said earlier on, so when you start to observe these, then you can make better decisions. But when you're not observing them, you keep falling in the trap of trying to fix it. And like you said, what, in a way you said this, what goes up must come down. Like what goes in has to come out somewhere. Right. So Isaac Newton gave us this. It's science. It has to go somewhere. It has to come back to you, because you are the creator of everything in your life, in your universe. You are the most important person in your life, in your universe. And that's why, don't be surprised if you have a thought of another person. Don't be surprised when they act like that, because you are so powerful that person, it doesn't matter what they do. They can never be anybody else to
That's
you,
true.
Because you have created them to be like that.
See, and so for me, right? So for me, that, I'm going to say this, but I'm not saying it to, clash with you. But for me, that is the ultimate meditation. I'm going to use it in your term. Because as children, you don't come in thinking, I got to meditate. You become that over time. But as children, the relationship that you come into now begins to shape and mold your reality, right? You start off
Correct.
there. So you come out crying for some relationship. You come out crying, looking and seeking for something to attach to. So as we progress and we get older, we still develop the best within the confines of relationships, meaning our parental relationships. Not saying that all parental relationships are great, but I'm saying that's how we develop. Now, as we move forward through adolescence and all these different things, we begin, like, even in the parental relationships, there's a waxing and a waning. There's a pulling, and then there's a pushing away. So you have children that are clinging on to you at a certain age, and then they're pushing away from you at a certain age. They don't want to be associated with you at a certain age. So and then they come back and they come. So, but as they progress, if you're still holding on to the baby them, you will miss a lot of the transitions that they have, because you're still projecting that childlike energy onto them. They're like, I don't want to be around that because I'm not that anymore. So by observing the energy that you're putting off, you really are observing how you have not progressed in that area.
And that's what you attract. You said something very interesting there. You know, it's completely true. We come out seeking relationship. I mean, our first relationship is with the mother, in the womb of the mother, the relationship that is there with the mother. And so coming out, you know, and then, you know, that's why it's very important the first year and so to bond with the mother and with the father too, because you're going to understand yourself a lot better when you understand your relationship with the parents, really, because that's the relationship that you chose to come into. And, you know, as you know, when we are young, like 1 and 2, we are like sponges. We soak everything up in our environment, and we become those things that we soak up. And so when we move through our relationships in our life, we have to find out, okay, this isn't working for me.
Right.
It can be that your parents were in an abusive relationship, but as a child, when you come out, you actually don't know it's good or not good. You just see it that it is.
You don't know how to observe it.
Exactly. So you're just soaking it up. So when you go out in your life and you start to attract this kind of life, and of course now when you're older, you understand it from a different perspective, and you think, but I don't want this, but I don't know how not to create this.
Right.
And that's when people come to me for help like that, that's how I start to help them and to facilitate through that. It's not just one thing. It comes from a lot of aspects in the life. And that's why when people ask, what do I do? And I said, well, I'm really a health and wellness therapist, because being healthy and well is not just looking good on the outside.
Right.
Like people can be ripped with muscles and they can be so sick inside because of all the hate and the, you know, wrong information that they believe for so many years is there, you know, and creating illness and so forth. And so health and wellness means you have integrated it in your entire life with what is the key word? With all your relationships. And our first relationship is with the mother.
Right.
And if I can go back a little bit with the Dr. Wayne Dyer story. So his talk was literally about how he went to go search for his father, because he was abandoned by his father when he was a little boy, like 3 or something. There were 3 of them. And they had to go into foster care because the father left and the mother couldn't afford to look after them in those years. And he was angry with this man that he really didn't know. Okay. He went looking for the man. And of course, the man was already dead. And he said he was standing on the grave of his father and he had to make a choice. I have to forgive you so that I can live my life, or this hate that I have towards you is going to kill me. Because it was his life was really in bad shape.
And you know what's crazy?
And that's when he turned his life around. So that's the relationships.
Yeah, exactly. People do that in romantic relationships. They do it in parental relationships. But what you don't realize is all connected. It's how you relate. It's how you push out. You know what I mean? And if you're pushing out so much, you cannot bring in the right information to make the proper adjustments.
I have a tagline. I'm still figuring out how to use my tagline. It goes like this. Wherever you go, there you are.
Exactly. I believe it. And I'm here. You know what I mean?
Wherever you go, there you are. Because if in one relationship you couldn't make it, guess what? Don't try to go make it in another relationship.
And you know,
because you're taking all your problems there.
Exactly. And that's why they say, like, you know, if you get a divorce in your first marriage, then the second one you have a higher rate, and the third higher rate, fourth higher rate, a higher rate. So it can, you can make adjustments, but usually most people don't. They find what was wrong with the other person, and that's it. They just stop there. You know, they only focus on what the other person did not do, but not how they contributed to what the person did not do.
Unless there's really physical abuse happening.
Well, yeah, of course.
There really isn't. There really isn't a reason why you can't work through things.
I agree.
And people, it's up to you. It's your choice.
Mm-hmm.
You can have one relationship, and if it doesn't work out, and you want to break it off because for some reason you're not happy or this is going on, then you're going to try another relationship. But like I said, because problems are not in others, your issues are in yourself, and others trigger, you know, and that's another thing why I wrote this book. Like you saw, one of the tools are these triggers. It's to help people just try to understand that, okay, when somebody triggers something in me, that's my emotion.
Right.
Like I have that in me. Yes, they triggered it in me, but it's not their fault. My reaction is completely my responsibility.
Right.
I'll bring another thing of Dr. Wayne Dyer. One of the talks that he did, he came on the stage with an orange in his hand, and he was squeezing the orange, and he asked the audience, like, what do you think is going to come out of this orange? I'm squeezing it now for half an hour.
Right.
And there was a young girl in the audience, and she said, well, of course, orange juice. And he said, she's right. Of course, orange juice. So when we get squeezed, okay, let's say you're in a relationship where you get squeezed. It can be with your child, with your husband,
whatever's
with your
in,
father, mother.
Out.
Whatever is in you is going to come out. So you blaming them, come on.
Yeah. I mean, you know, and I always say, even with abuse, you know, I find that in my coaching, what I've been finding is not been finding, but I've always knew this, but I don't think people want to talk about it, you know, because usually the people that I meet that talk about how they were abused and how they, you know, were hit on or whatever in their last relationship, then I talk to them and say, so how was your relationship with your parents, or how was your parental relationship? And they're like, well, my mom was the same way. She got abused by my dad. Or, you know, like I didn't really have a good relationship with my parents. I was abandoned, or I was adopted, or, you know, I was left at my cousin's house, and my parents, they, you know, I don't know who they are. There's always some other form of abuse that's attached to that abuse that they're experiencing, because that's the way that they learn how to process relationships. That's how they learn how to process information, for the most part. I'm not saying, because I personally haven't ran across many scenarios, or really any scenario where a person was like, yeah, I had a fantastic childhood, everything was great, and now, you know, like I'm here. Like unless they just, but then that's a whole nother issue, which that's a whole nother conversation. But even if they do find themselves in that, it's probably because they want to try something so completely different from what they have experienced, because they have disdain for, you know, something the way their parents are racist, or they're, you know, it's like a rebellious type of thing. You know what I mean? Like they have a rebellion towards an establishment, or towards a hierarchical structure or something. But nevertheless, what I found is, like you said, whatever's in us, like if in this bottle is what's in it, you know what I mean? And whatever I decide to put into it is what's going to be in it. It's going to take the form of the bottle.
Correct. And our ego tries to keep us distracted from who we are. So always we're projecting what we don't like onto others. So if that person made you feel anger, then you're angry with them for making you angry. But you don't understand that anger is part of you, and it's okay to have anger sometimes. It's just like what you do with it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So again, the number one point that people have problems with really is taking responsibility.
That's true.
For their actions, for their feelings, for their emotions, and so forth. And if you can take responsibility, then all your relationships will improve. Every single one of them. Your relationship is basically, it's telling you about yourself, what's happening with you inside. And the relationship on the outside is trying to help you to, you know, come to a better place inside, to come to terms with who you are, to accept yourself as you are. But you're constantly denying it.
Right. Exactly.
thinking, well, it's the other person. I'm just going to leave him and I'm going to take someone else.
Exactly.
I'm just going to leave her and I'm going to take someone else.
Exactly. And
because
never
I
deal
don't
with
want
the
to
real
see
person.
that part of myself.
Right. And
because the ego structure doesn't want to do that.
Exactly.
But the healing never comes.
It never comes. It can't come.
The healing never comes.
That's like saying I'm sick, but never going to the hospital and saying, well, hospitals are bad. People die in the hospitals, and never going to get healed.
Yeah. Well, here's the good news for all of us.
Tell us the good news.
Yeah, the good news is you can change whenever, anytime, at any moment. If you start right now with us on this podcast, you start to take responsibility for yourself, and you start to say, I'm going to ask myself, what can I do to make my life better? Absolutely. And not expect my husband to make it better, or my finances to make it better, or my children to make it better. What can I do? Can I take 12 to 20 minutes in a day, just sit for a meditation, just start to observe my feelings, just start to observe my thoughts, my emotions, and just see them as clouds passing. I don't have to become attached to them. There's lots and lots of meditation. I mean, I even have a couple on my website too. People can, if you're stuck and you don't know what to do, how to meditate, there's always help. Absolutely. It's very simple, right? But the most important thing is just that you just start. And there's no time better to start than now.
Absolutely.
So don't worry about where you want to be. Just start. And without the expectation, because it's another problem for us, like when we start to meditate, we think like, oh, I want to be like this one and that one. No, just be who you are. Be with your experience and enjoy your experience, because it's so unique. We are all so unique, that you deserve to know yourself better.
Absolutely.
Before you want other people to love you, why don't you just start to love yourself first?
Well, that's the thing. Now, that's where I kind of start to take a backseat in terms of, I don't think there's a time where you don't ever love yourself. Like I said, from the time you come out of the womb, and I was having this conversation with another relationship coach, and from the time you come out, you are expressing the love that you have for yourself by crying, by expressing the desire to have someone either grab you, feed you, hold you, or whatever, right? Now, as we grow older, we are taught not how to express those things. We're taught, hey, stop crying. Hey, stop asking. Hey, stop this, stop this. So we're now barriered around from expressing the truth of who we really are. So now, as we go through and move through the process of life and process of different types of relationships, we are barriered because we don't want to express the truth of who we are. And so after a while, we become so buried in our self funneling or our self muffling that we can't express who we are because it's so buried from 10, 20, 30,
but
40,
you still
50 years
but
ago.
You still made that decision, though. You are still responsible that you made that decision.
I agree.
Not to express.
I agree. But habits are hard to break, and you know this like I know.
They're not really. That's not really true.
Well, hold on. Let me finish. They are true for somebody who doesn't know it's a habit. You see what I'm saying? Like if this is this may be the first time somebody's ever thought about it like this. Because what people tend to do is they'll say, I'm not loving myself enough. Well, what does that mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, I need to have more self-love. Like, well, what does that mean? Maybe.
Oh, very good question. I love it.
Oh, now, hold on. Maybe. Okay. Well, go ahead. So we can talk about this. This is about to talk to me about it.
That's a super question because, of course, people always say, we keep hearing like, love yourself, love you. What does that actually mean?
Right. Talk to me.
Yeah. So I'll put it into a little perspective here. Let's say, for example, now, as you progress and you told us that, you come out of the womb and, you express love, and then you are taught that not to show it and, only in certain places and areas in your life. And so we have like a barrier where we don't show truly who we are. So this is all, what people really do. At the same time, you have to understand, and I already said it to you as well, is that you make the choice to fit in.
Well,
right?
No, not necessarily. I'm saying that if you don't think there's a choice, because like you said, up until the point where you met the guy and he was like, you don't have to do this.
Yes.
You didn't know, you thought that this is just how it is, even though you wanted something different, but you didn't know there was a choice. And so
Correct.
for a lot of people, they haven't been liberated to know that you have a choice in this department, that department, that department.
And of
that
course,
department.
exactly. And
Yeah,
of course,
that's
exactly.
that's
That's
all
where
I'm
the
saying.
information, that's
Yeah.
why people like you and I are here, because
Exactly.
we're spreading that words, right?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
coming back to exactly what you asked about, what does it mean that you love yourself?
Mhm.
Okay. So basically, let's say you are in a job, you're working 24/7 because you want to be successful, because you think you love yourself, and you want to have so much money, you want to be free financially. Like that's what most people want, because they think that's where happiness lies.
Mhm.
But guess what you're doing? You are not loving yourself, because you're overworking your body, you're stressed out of your mind, you may be getting sick, you're not eating well, you're not sleeping well. That is not loving yourself.
But pause right there. Now, here's the
Yes.
thing, because we're making, you know what we're doing? We're coming right back full circle to where we started at, because that's what they think and that's what they believe, as opposed to, and they've clung on to those, held on to those beliefs that in order to be successful, in order to be a man, in order to be a woman, you have to do these things. So instead of like observing these thoughts and saying, well, what is true for me, they have clung onto an idea that they have made true for them, even though it may not be true for them. So like you're saying, they're doing this to the detriment of something else.
Correct.
Yeah.
So and of course, many people don't know that, and that's why people like you and I are doing what we're doing to spread the word about, hey, you're actually hurting yourself. You know, you're actually hurting because can you have an experience here in this reality without your body? No, you cannot. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter how much money. We see it every day. I mean, we just lost Steve Jobs some time ago. He was a billionaire.
Right.
It doesn't matter how much money you have. When the body is done, it's over.
Done, right.
Okay. So for me, when you talk about love, let's start with self. Let's start with taking care of my physical body, loving my physical body, not doing bad things to it.
Right. But here's what, we're saying the same thing, but I'm just distinguishing because you've learned how to do it that way. So you have to unlearn and learn something new. You know what I'm saying? That's
why I said you have the choice right now to change. Right, in this moment, if you change your mind.
But here's what I'm saying, though. Here's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying you were loving yourself a certain type of way. You just defined it. So that's my point. You've always loved yourself. You're just using a definition that is not beneficial to you, maybe, in one department or another. But you have always, because you're telling yourself.
I'll put it in a nutshell for you.
Go ahead, put it in a nutshell for me, please.
Because you are love.
Exactly.
Because you cannot be anything else but love.
That's why I've been saying that.
And you are right, completely right.
That's what I've been saying.
Everybody is in some form thinking that they're doing it out of love. But you know what? We need the proof is always in the pudding.
But see, love gets that's the thing. You are love, but when you add all of these different elements, it kind of tempers the love and makes it not genuine. It's not pure love, I would say. So you got all these different thoughts and beliefs and barriers and all these different things mixed in with what you call love, and now it's not really the true definition.
Well, everything is love. Everything is love. You are love.
I agree, but what I'm saying is, if that's the case, then there would be no need for us to talk about hanging on the thoughts and all that stuff, because those things are love too. But there are certain things that we do and we believe in that are detrimental. Like you said, if that's the case, if everything is love and if we are love, then working myself 24 hours a day is still love, right?
Exactly, because you said it true. Because if that's your definition of what loving yourself is, meaning I want to be successful in this way, that I want to be financially free, then you're feeling that, but you actually, there's some kind of like
imbalance, and
there's a distance between really yourself and what you perceive as love.
Okay.
Because our perception of love is different to what love. See, love is not an emotion. Love is not a feeling. Love is your existence. And that's why when people, I believe, it's a personal belief, I don't have any scientific thing to base this up, but I believe that when people get ready to leave this body in this life, that they return to that love.
Well,
Pure love.
I don't think they.
As
Oh,
they
okay, I
came
see.
in
I got
here
you.
with a pure love, when you see a baby, when it comes in, it's pure love. It doesn't have any I don't like, nothing. It's just pure love.
Well, that's the thing. Like now we're talking about pure love, but we're distinguishing because we have words and we have an understanding and a way to distinguish between pure and impure love. But see, when you're a baby, you don't have that per se or the ability to express that.
No, but because you just come with the pure love that you are. And then you learn, as you said earlier on, you learn the mother, you learn the father, you learn the environment, and you soak that up. And now from that information, you make decisions.
Well, isn't that interesting? Well, let me just say this. Isn't that interesting that, okay, for you, you just said that love is like a baby comes in with pure love, but a child or a baby at that point needs the most.
Maybe not.
There's no maybe to it. Like you said, without the body, there would be no you to be here. So you need someone because you're not able to do that. You see what I'm saying?
I can go a little bit deeper with this.
Let's go. Let's go. Hold on. Let's take a break right quick before we go deeper.
I can go a little bit deeper with this conversation here.
Because like I think hold on, Deborah. Because I know you about to go. Well, I don't know where you about to go specifically, but I know you about to go. I can see how you pull back and then you came back forward. So I know you about to go deep. But we're gonna take a break right quick.
Are you ready for this information?
I'm ready. Listen, I'm ready. I'll be ready. I'll be really ready after this quick break. Okay,
awesome.
We're gonna take a quick break and we'll be right back with Deborah Small, and you guys stay tuned.